My sibling claimed I had destroyed their lives, forcing them to live with our parents. I responded by telling them to leave. They had stayed in my home for 7 months without paying a dime. Later, at our parents' place, they called me selfish, and then 2 weeks ago, my family erupted in a way I'm still trying to comprehend. I've come across similar tales online where a well-intentioned offer to let families stay turns into a prolonged disaster. I used to think such things couldn't possibly happen. Not like that. Not to real people. But now I know better. It does happen. And it's even more painful when it's your own flesh and blood. My sister, let's call her Sarah, called me 7 months ago in tears. They were being kicked out of their rental in Boise due to lease issues, unpaid rent, and conflicts with the landlord. Her partner, let's name him Jake, had lost his job months earlier, leaving them with no options. They had a 10-year-old son, Eli, whom I'd always tried to be kind to. Sarah begged if they could stay with me in Nampa for just a little while. I agreed without hesitation. I didn't overthink it. I had recently finished updating the guest area in my house. Working remotely full-time, single, and living alone, it seemed like the right thing to do. That choice still lingers in my mind. At first, they seemed grateful, or at least pretended to be. I told them not to worry about rent or utilities, just to focus on rebuilding their lives. That was my first misstep. Because once people get a free pass, some forget what gratitude even means. Jake never once looked for work. I'm serious, not a single attempt. He spent his days gaming and blasting music in my garage. One afternoon, I came home to find he'd transformed it into a makeshift lounge with LED lights, beanbags, and a neon sign that read, "Hustle Hard." I still don't know what he was hustling for. Sarah took a part-time remote job, but made a habit of using my credit card, promising to pay me back on payday. Eli started drawing on the walls with permanent markers within the first week, smiley faces and odd shapes. I repainted the hallway. He did it again. And again. He also sliced holes in my couch cushions to build a secret hideout. Sarah brushed it off, saying he was just being imaginative. I covered everything: groceries, bills, school supplies, clothes for Eli, even a pet snake Jake brought home one day for Eli's emotional growth. It vanished after 3 days. I discovered it in my closet. I was shelling out $5 to $7 grand a month to keep this chaos afloat. They treated my place like a free resort with endless perks. Then came the breaking point. 5 weeks ago, I walked into my office to find Eli streaming a noisy Minecraft session with friends on my work laptop. He'd spilled soda on the keyboard and tried hiding it with a towel. Sarah blamed me for leaving it unlocked. That same week, I got a PayPal alert. Jake had sold my drone, the one I'd saved months to buy. When I confronted him, he claimed he thought I wasn't using it anymore. That's when it hit me. They weren't planning to leave, ever. I gave them 2 weeks' notice. No arguments, no shouting. I even offered to help with a security deposit if they found a place. Jake acted like I'd exiled them in a snowstorm. Sarah stayed silent, glaring as if I'd betrayed them. 2 weeks later, they packed up. No cleaning, no thanks, just left. They moved to our parents' place across town. After they were gone, I found dried mac and cheese in the carpet, broken closet doors, and a cracked toilet seat that now tilts when you sit. I thought it was over. I thought the worst was behind me. Then, 2 days later, I went to my parents for dinner, and things spiraled in ways I never saw coming. 2 days after they moved out, I arrived at my parents' house, hoping for a semblance of normalcy. I didn't want to fight. I told myself that once they were out of my space, I'd let it go. No grudges. I just wanted peace. Maybe, secretly, I wanted some acknowledgement for what I'd done for them. I pulled up to the house I grew up in. Same pristine yard, same crack in the driveway since 2004. But the moment I stepped inside, I knew I'd misread everything. They were already at the table. My mom was overcompensating with food, playing hostess to keep things pleasant. Sarah avoided eye contact. Jake gave me a smug nod, like he'd won something. Eli was glued to a tablet, volume maxed out, drowning the room in cartoon noise. It started subtly. My mom asked how they were adjusting. Sarah launched into a saga about instability and the struggles of raising a child while feeling like an unwelcome guest. No names were mentioned, but the target was clear. Jake chimed in, mocking how lucky some people are to live alone, free of responsibilities. I listened as they rewrote the last 7 months into a saga where they were the heroes and I was the oppressor. Sarah called it humiliating, claiming they'd felt emotionally homeless under my roof. I nearly laughed, until Jake called my place toxic. That's when my dad, silent until then, spoke. Calmly, firmly, he told Jake to shut up and said he wouldn't tolerate insults toward me in his home. The room froze. Even Eli looked up. Sarah tried backtracking, saying it wasn't about disrespect, but how I'd made her feel abandoned. She accused me of kicking them out when they were still trying, of giving up on them. I didn't engage. I just studied them. Jake, arms crossed, playing victim. Sarah, the martyr. And Eli, the only one I pitied, a kid caught in this mess. Then, unplanned, I said they couldn't stay at our parents' either. I declared it was time they figured things out like adults. I told my parents they were enabling the cycle I'd just broken. They had to go. Sarah paled. Jake looked ready to throw a punch, but stayed silent. My mom seemed stunned. My dad rubbed his face. No one defended them. I left soon after, my plate half full. Sitting in my car, engine running, I replayed what I'd done. I never thought I'd be the one to say it, but it needed saying. For 2 weeks, I wrestled with one question. Had I gone too far, or was I the only one willing to set boundaries? But the fallout wasn't over. After that dinner, I told myself I was done. No more involvement. I'd spoken my piece. Now it was my parents' problem. But days passed, and I couldn't shake it, not from guilt, but from irritation. Sarah and Jake had settled into our parents' home like it was their next free ride. 3 days post-dinner, I called my mom casually. She sounded exhausted. When I asked how things were, she sighed. The house was noisier, code for Jake commandeering the living room with his PlayStation and moving furniture. Eli had tried feeding the dog junk food. Sarah had claimed my old bedroom as her office. I asked how long they'd stay. "They haven't said," she replied. That's when I knew. Nothing would change without a push. I talked to my parents separately. My dad took me to breakfast and unloaded. Jake had borrowed his truck without asking and returned it empty. Sarah was ordering takeout nightly, wasting groceries. Worst of all, Eli had broken into his gun safe. Thankfully, nothing was touched, but the breach terrified him. That night, my mom confessed on the phone. They'd fought over Sarah and Jake cranking the heat and leaving lights on. Jake brought beer into the house, a strict no-no growing up, and Sarah had snapped when asked to help with dishes. By week's end, we all silently agreed. They had to go. What stunned us was their audacity. Sarah posted a house blessed Dachau family first Desher healing journey pic of herself working in our parents' kitchen. Jake uploaded a shirtless skateboarding video, yelling about finally breathing. He's 36. Then came the Amazon deliveries. Speakers, gaming gear, even a flat-pack couch. My mom had no idea who was paying. The next morning, I got a fraud alert. Sarah had used my card again, the one I'd removed from her phone months prior. I canceled it, called her, and said I'd reported it. She hung up. That night, my mom texted, "We're done, but you have to be the one to say it again." And so I did. On a tense Sunday, I walked into their house. Sarah was working at the table with multiple screens, headphones on like she was filming a tutorial. Jake lounged on the couch, volume blaring. Eli was taping and ripping duct tape off walls, ignoring my mom's pleas. I stood center stage and said it plainly. 1 week. You have 1 week to leave. No apologies, no sugarcoating. Sarah gaped. Jake asked if my parents approved. I looked at my dad. He nodded. My mom looked down. The meltdown began. Sarah ranted about betrayal, my resentment, my bitterness. She said I was jealous, which baffled me. Jealous of what? Jake tried confronting my dad. You're letting him run this family? My dad just stared him down until he sat. Sarah stormed out, returned with a duffel bag, and threw it down. Are you okay with this? She demanded of my mom, who walked away. Then came the line I'll never forget. You ruined our lives. Now we have to live with our parents, as if they weren't already. I just said, go away. Jake muttered something. My dad stood, his silent cue for enough. He told Jake to shut his mouth in his house. Eli, oblivious, wandered off. No apologies, no thanks. They spent the week sulking. My mom texted updates. Sarah gave everyone the silent treatment. Jake drank in the garage. They left 3 days early, leaving behind trash, broken items, and a sticky note from Eli. Bye, in orange marker. 2 weeks later, the house was quiet again. My parents seemed lighter, but then the letters and calls started. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years weighed in. Some called me heartless. Others said kids shouldn't pay for parents' mistakes. My uncle texted, "You did right. They're users." A cousin admitted Sarah had burned bridges with them too. But the noise was relentless. Being the one to draw the line comes with a price, even when you're justified. I don't regret it, but I'm left with a residue of unease. Not guilt, but the weight of being the bad guy for setting boundaries. Then this morning, a knock. Eli stood on my porch, backpack in tow, asking to stay. He'd fought with Sarah and Jake and left. Calls to them went to voicemail. So here we are again, him in the guest room, me wondering, did I do the right thing? Or am I back where I started, pretending the line was drawn when it never really was? If you enjoyed this story and felt the emotions behind it, don't forget to give it a like, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life experiences and heartfelt stories. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring more content like this to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.